The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin It Strong Style. Yes.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frost. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll discuss the latest on the Road to Destruction tour and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want access to the weekly video live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. And speaking of going live, I hinted about it last week, but we got the date and time locked in. Friday, September 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You're going to want to be on the Social Suplex YouTube channel. We got a big network announcement. There's going to be several of the hosts on this live stream. We're going to drop some big news. You're going to ask us all questions, and I think we're even going to play Tunnel Talk's dating game. So it's going to be a fun time if you're free Friday night, right before Rampage, all that stuff, SmackDown. Jump on in, Social Suplex YouTube channel, September 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun and very exciting, and we're really excited to make some announcements here. I don't know what the dating game necessarily entails, though.
Well, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun for all of us. You know, gotta add the Tunnel Talk twist to things.
You gotta?
Yeah. Tunnel Talk's a top draw out here.
Well, yeah, looking forward to it and excited to make that announcement. I've gotten a lot of people up in my DMs asking me what the deal is, what's going on, so there's a lot of people that want to know exactly what it is that we have, brewing. So yeah, Rambo and Slam Big says you will do great. Just be in as an inch as possible. I really don't know what that game entails, but I'm down to play, I guess.
Yeah, should be fun. And yeah, Dan Coffin, he was trying to get some scoops on what was going on, and we met up on Saturday night. So yeah, they saw the graphic go out this past Friday, so people are trying to get the scoop, figuring out what we're gonna announce.
How about we went out to a show in Tampa for local Florida indie CCW, which is pretty much one of the top 2 or 3, probably at this point, maybe even number 1 independent groups in the state of Florida. And bro, that was one of the most brutal shows in terms of conditions. I've never been in a show that was that physically hot before in my entire life.
And we've been to outdoor shows.
I've been to some really egregiously bad outdoor shows that had insane conditions, but this was by far the worst. Bro, you guys were all tougher than me. I don't know how you guys stayed in that back room of that brewery and watched all that shit, because I couldn't handle it. I had to step in and out quite a bit, get some water. and you're at a brewery, so like most of what they have to drink is beer, and when you're like, dehydrated, that's probably not the wisest choice necessarily.
Yeah, I only got one drink. I was like, yeah, man, it is hot. I'm sweating bullets back there. And, I've never been to this brewery. I've seen CCW kind of post around. We have a lot of friends in the local Florida indie scene. So I'm like, all right, let's check it out. Because normally when a wrestling show is at a brewery, it's usually somehow they configure it to where it's like in the middle of the brewery, or kind of like, the roundup kind of situation, or like there's like some kind of dance floor area where they set it up. Like, and then the main part of the brewery, there's air conditioning, it's a little bit more comfortable. But this was like in the back end of the brewery where they kind of brew some of the beer and the alcohol there. And yeah, they had like this one big fan thing that was not really circulating because everybody was like standing in front of it. And yeah, it was miserable.
Yeah, well, I was told, kind of gotten the scoop there a little bit. I was told that there was supposed to be a sponsor that was supposed to come in with AC fans to cool the place down, and they backed out last minute, or they had paid for it and nobody went to go pick it up. Something along those lines. I heard conflicting stories, but in a nutshell, we didn't have anything to cool us down. And then I also heard that they realized day of the show they didn't have enough chairs. So not only was it hot, but like we were standing, and like you and I both didn't wear shorts. We wore I didn't wear jeans. I think you were wearing jeans.
Yeah.
Shit was terrible, bro.
Yeah, big mistake. And you know what? They actually drew pretty well for that show. I wasn't expecting that many people there. It was a pretty good crowd for Florida indie.
Yeah, I mean, there were some bad booking and some not so great matches, but by and large, it was a pretty solid show. I mean, I've definitely been to worse independent shows in my time, but I've never been to one that was that uncomfortable. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And then shout out to, Tony Donati, I should say Tony Twist. He was on the show some time ago. Your training partner, him and Fabu had match of the night. And pretty much every time I see those guys wrestle, they always kill it. And they're in a big blood feud right now. Tony turned on Fabu. And yeah, they tore the house down.
Yeah, three Side Dojo trainees were involved in that match. Hardcore Alex Horvath acting as the muscle and heavy to Tony Twist Donati's, Shawn Michaels, I suppose. And then, Fabu Andre, the fabulous one, the butterfly, he was left high and dry by Tony. And those two guys attacked him after a match a couple weeks ago in CCW, left him bloody, hit him in the head with a chair, unprotected chair shots. I don't condone that sort of stuff. It's definitely not what I learned when I was in the Side Dojo. No one, or if we did, I missed that day where we did the headshots with the chairs. But yeah, they're in the middle of a blood feud. They had a great match. That referee fucking sucked, though.
Bro, all their referees were bad.
We
saw one of the worst ref bumps of all time on that show. Oh my gosh. Oh man.
So yeah. But I guess we should jump into some New Japan. There's been a couple shows this week.
Yeah, so let's jump into the Shinihon. First thing here, Ren Narita, who was scheduled to be on these shows we're about to review. He had to be pulled from these shows. He sustained an injury to his right arm on September 9th at the Road to Destruction in Korakuen Hall. And so he was pulled from the show in Sendai. So a little bit of an injury bug going around. We got some other injuries, so we'll kind of go through the results here. But not good for Narita, as he was kind of in position to be the next challenger for the TV title. So we'll see how bad the arm injury is, if he'll be able to come back relatively soon.
Yeah, we don't have very much information beyond just what they initially reported. So, I mean, at this point, the deal essentially is that he's out. We don't know how long that's going to be for, if it's a long-term, short-term, or, what the length of time is going to be. And the big thing was that he was getting positioned for that title shot against Jeff Cobb for the TV title. They did the angle post match after Jeff Cobb had successfully defended against Yota Tsuji at the conclusion of that's the same tour, right? Road to Destruction.
Yeah, it was at one of the Korakuens last week.
Yeah, Corkin last week. So that was what they were getting ready for. I don't know if that was going to be on like one of the big shows, like the one in Kobe, but they were on the track to do that match, and now it's very much in question if like they're gonna have to postpone it or what the deal is.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the September 11th card from Sendai Sun Plaza. This was Wednesday, September 11th. Show opened up. We had Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yasuda wrestling to a 10-minute time limit draw. We had a question here from the Discord Daddy. Question about Young Lion progress. Do they all go through a similar bulking phase at the same time during their progression? Dakai and Matsuda are both still very lean and muscular, while Shomakato and Murashima have bulked up quite substantially. P.S. I am way in on Daiki. Kid looks like he could be an amazing heel.
I don't know the specifics on that. I mean, it's definitely a thing where over the years we've seen Young Lions debut, and obviously everyone knows they always come in with the shaved head and the green boy look, that sort of thing. But they do tend to debut extremely lean, extremely cut up, and then as time goes on, build upon that frame. I don't know if there's like a regiment there. I mean, the one thing I do know is that they eat chanko primarily in the Noge dojo. So that's a great way to put on mass if that's, what they're aiming to do. But I don't know if there's a specific regiment or, protocol as to when and how they're allowed to do that or anything of that nature.
Yeah, we don't have the deets on that, but yeah, we know about the chanko. We hear about that, and that's pretty much their main meal there. But yeah, they're in the gym all the time. But a big bulk up man, Callum Newman, he shared his like before and after being in the dojo picture. Like it looked like he got shot with a super serum. Like he was this really, really skinny dude, and then after a year in the dojo, he's bulked up, put on a bunch of size. So yeah, they're feeding them something in that Noge dojo.
Yeah, I wonder. That's quite suspicious. I don't know if that's just chanko or not,
little secret ingredient in there. Oh man,
sauce.
Any thoughts on these Young Lions? Another 10-minute draw. I'm sure we're going to see this probably going on for a little bit with these two guys.
I mean, I'm just going to be repeating points that we've made on the show continuously. I'm very high on both of these guys. I really enjoy the work that they're doing in these early matches. One of the key things that I noticed was just the struggle of everything they're doing. It's not just about fluidity or even fighting spirit, but it's about the simulation of a real combative grappling exchange and strike exchange. Like there are times where they're going for things, they're blocking one another, they're struggling multiple times to get stuff. And, it looks very shoot-esque, if I might say. So, and that's something that's sort of been lacking with some of the other Young Lions that have, come out of the dojo recently. I think that they're already beyond a lot of those guys.
Yeah, like you mentioned, yeah, it's going to be a lot of same talking points. And yeah, we're pretty high on these guys. And yeah, they're grappling. And like you mentioned, everything looks more of like a fight and a struggle. And so, yeah, and they're kind of doing the thing now where like, when they do these time draws, like they kind of take turns getting the advantage. Like one person will have somebody in a submission hole, time runs out. And so they're kind of going back and forth with that. And we've seen this, it's the plug and play Young Lion kind of rivalry. And so we're going to continue to see this build. And so, yeah, really interested to see how these guys grow.
I love this style of wrestling. It's one of, everyone talks about it as being basic and foundational to New Japan, but they almost say that in almost like a negative way, like, almost like it's derogatory. But to me, like what they're doing, it in so many ways encapsulates what I like about pro wrestling, where guys care about winning and losing. They've got pride and they're going out there and they're going for the win and they're looking to inflict damage on the other person. And they've got a chip on their shoulder, they've got something to prove and they're fighting for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lots of fire, lots of aggression.
Yeah. And they tell a great story. I mean, it is a simple story, but it's an effective one and they're getting the crowd behind them. And yeah, I like it.
So then following that, we had Tiger Mask and Tomioka Hanuma defeating Katsuya Murashima and Shoma Kato, 7 minutes and 35 seconds. So your standard New Japan Dad versus Young Lion match here. You know, Tiger Mask and Hanuma have been taking a lot of losses on this tour, so giving them a nice little win here over some Young Lions.
Yeah, not much to add there. You know, like you mentioned, very basic, exactly what you'd expect out of these 4 guys.
Yeah. Then following that, we had Francisco Akira defeating Taka Michinoku in a kind of a rare undercard singles match here in 6 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yeah, this was a short match. Didn't overstay its welcome. I mean, I'm supposing that they're getting, and we've been saying this for a while, that it seems like they're trying to potentially heat up Francesco Akira for something. I don't know if he is a potential title challenger here in the near future, and maybe this is like one step towards that. But you know, I don't know where this necessarily came from, why this particular match was booked, because it's pretty rare that we get singles matches of any sort without a reason for it happening.
Yeah. And so it must be that, yeah, they're trying to build up Akira for something. Yeah, he hasn't picked up a lot of wins over the last few tours on undercard stuff. So, you know, we talked about who is DOUKI going to face next after kind of going through a lot of top guys in the division. And so, yeah, I mean, Akira is a very great guy to go against. And so maybe he is going to be next in line for DOUKI.
I mean, and he really hasn't had, if I recall, any title challenges up to this point other than the tag titles, right?
Yeah, I think he's mainly just been tag titles.
Yeah, I mean, he's had big singles matches and a lot of great performances, especially in the Super Juniors, but I don't think he's really been mixed up in the title scene up to this point. So, you know, and I don't know, is just 5 guys feuding with United Empire right now? I don't think so, right?
Not really. I mean, you got Sonata that's getting ready to slide in with Sabre. Taichi's not really feuding for anybody right now. DOUKI is feuding with Ishimori.
The United Empire seems to be primarily, you know, matching up with LIJ right now. So that's where I was a little bit like, huh, this kind of came out of nowhere. But I think this is one to kind of keep your eye on. At first glance, if you were sort of like a novice to New Japan, you might look at that and just say like, okay, it's a experienced veteran taking on a young guy, and just kind of a throwaway nothing match sort of thing. But they don't do singles matches like that in New Japan. It always really does have some sort of larger meaning, even if it's not an immediate payoff. So I really wouldn't be surprised if Francesco Akira is coming out of this being like the next potential title challenger.
Yeah. Rambo says Taichi is feuding with the bookers, I think. But yeah, Akira gets the win here. He hits a Michinoku driver for a near fall, followed by the fireball knees, and gets the win there. So then following that, we had the Just 5 Guys team of Sonata and Taichi defeating the TMDK team of Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. in a really kind of crazy undercard moment here with Sonata pinning the G1 winner, Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, so Zack and Sonata have had an extremely storied, you know, singles feud that's kind of gone on and off for several years now. And the most recent iteration of that feud kind of culminated at the end of the G1. They had one of the best Sonata matches in a really, really long time. And Zack defeated Sonata in Sonata's hometown. So since then, you know, Sonata's clearly fallen far from the top of the mountain where he was at the start of the year when he was the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion holder. Like it that almost seems like a lifetime ago, like it maybe even never happened sort of thing. And the fact that he was able to get a victory over Zack Sabre in this tag match, and not just a victory, but like a clean, he hit him with the deadfall, like put him lights out, 1, 2, 3, like super. I mean, it doesn't get any cleaner or more definitive than that. And then there was a lot of jaw jacking afterwards. And, Sonata basically said like he wants to fight Zack Sabre Jr. in his hometown in the UK and embarrass him there the same way that he was embarrassed by Sonata during the G1. And, there's talk right now that if by the time that match happens, if in fact Zack Sabre Jr. is the reigning world champion, then this could be the start of the next title, program, basically.
Yeah, so Zach is going to face Sonata at Royal Quest. So that match has been made official. And Royal Quest comes after King of Pro Wrestling. So like you mentioned, yeah, Zack Sabre can defeat Naito. And then this could become a title match, which I'm pretty sure that's what's the direction there. But very interesting because, yeah, it's very rare that you see an undercard loss like this for somebody that's challenging the champion. So they're definitely already setting up challenges for Zach going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in time like last week where I was starting to get a bit more nervous about Zach's chances, but there's a few little kind of indicators that are starting to make me feel as though we are, that basically Naito's title reign is on its last legs and we're gearing up for Sonata or for Zack Sabre's title reign. One other thing I'd like to point out here. So, I mean, Kosei Fujita, he's back. That's great. Seeing Sonata and Taichi team up, this was a team that from the get-go, when Just Five Guys first started, I always imagined, given the like chemistry between these two guys and the story beats and the formation of Just Five Guys and everything like that, that they could make a really good tag team, and obviously that wasn't something that could play out when Sonata was champion, but like here to date, this is the first time they've really teamed together the entirety of the group's existence, which this match could be the catalyst to us seeing them team together a little bit more often. But it just feels like it's essentially just there to set up the match between Zach and Sonata.
Yeah, and also a little bit of teasing of obviously the former Dangerous Tekker partners with Taichi and Zach facing off. But the main focus was really more Zach and Sonata. So again, very surprising moment. I was just kind of, it's a normal Road 2 tag. I'm like,
right.
Vegeta's probably going to get pinned. He's a junior in this situation, whatever. And then Zach ends up getting pinned. I was like, oh, what's going on here? So,
right. And we had talked about one of these scenarios a few weeks ago where we said it's so rare that a top star or champion loses in a preview tag unless they really want to juice something up and forward the momentum. And it happens only a handful of times per year, maybe once or twice even. So yeah, this is a big win for Sonata. Even though just on paper it looks like a tag team win. I mean, he beat the G1 winner who's still carrying out his title and still has yet to cash in on his title opportunity. His championship opportunity.
So following that, we had the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Evil, Sho, Kanemaru, and Yujiro defeating Tanahashi, Yano, Bolton Oleg, Taguchi, and Chota Umino 9 minutes and 50 seconds. So the never-ending Hantai versus House of Torture feud going on in the build to the never six-man tag team titles.
Yeah, fortunately, the culmination of that feud would happen the next night on the tour that we're covering. So that's good. But yeah, this is, again, I at this point, I don't even have the words to belabor and continue to go on and on about when it comes to House of Torture and Hantai. Like, there was a lot of cheating. It is what it is. What it is when it comes to these guys. And I don't know. I don't really have the effort in me to dive deep into the intricacies of House of Torture and Hantai feud.
Yeah.
And who's the real president and all that shit.
Yeah, the end of the match came down to Kanemaru spraying the whiskey into Taguchi's eyes. Evil and Togo hit the magic killer on Taguchi, and Togo pinned Taguchi to get the pin there. So kind of a rare Dick Togo pin there. And then, of course, they're taunting these guys as they go into the never six-man title match. So then following that, we had the Chaos team of Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi of Chaos defeating the Bullet Club War Dogs team of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Jake Lee. And this match had a little bit of a wonky ending here. At some point in the match, Jake Lee suffered an injury to his foot. He had to get carted off, and looks like there's also some miscommunication between like Gabe Kidd and Goto. Like Goto pretty much just hit it was kind of a brain buster, but more of just kind of a vertical suplex, and Gabe Kidd didn't kick out, and Goto kind of seemed confused, like this is not the finish, and the ref was running in to check on Gabe Kidd, but then he was fine, and then there was a post-match beatdown. So very kind of clunky finish there with Jake Lee legitimately getting hurt here.
Yeah, the Jake Lee injury came on the heels of a spot where he was on the apron and they did the whole thing where teammates accidentally run into one another. So David Finlay was, whipped into the ropes and accidentally bumped him off the apron, in kayfabe. And I guess whatever happened when he came down, I had heard it was his knee, but I guess you're saying it's his foot.
Yeah. So according to New Japan, they said that he sustained an injury to his right foot and will be unable to compete.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's not anything too serious. But yeah, he was unable to compete, finish the match, and spent the entirety of, and this was like pretty early on, and the match didn't even go that long. I mean, we're talking about sub 9 minutes, but he was on the ground for the remainder of the match, never did get back up. And, yeah, like you mentioned, the finish of the match came where it was Goto and Gabe Kidd. And I don't know, I've kind of got a little bit mixed feelings here. I don't want to put too much of a tinfoil hat on, but on the one hand, I sort of felt like the finish was supposed to potentially be like they're heating up the Mad Bastards. So maybe, Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee pick up a victory over Bishamon. But at the same time, they still sort of have to heat up Yoshihashi. He's in the middle of a singles feud with David Finlay. So I don't know, if long term they were planning to do a tag thing between these two groups or not, since, Yoshihashi is focused more on the single side of things. But regardless, it was pretty clear that finish was not expected because Goto put him up and just hit him with a straight vertical suplex. They call it a brain buster in Japan, but it was just a suplex, very standard. And Gabe Kidd didn't kick out. The referee, he counted the 3 like he's supposed to, but he definitely hesitated on the 3. Like you could kind of tell he didn't necessarily, he must have known what the finish was, and this wasn't the finish, but he also has to keep kayfabe. And then Goto even mouthed something to the referee when he popped up. He's like, I don't know what he said, but I imagine he said something like, "What the hell," Right. And it's
he looked very confused and very angry. It's like, come on, Goto, pull together. You in kayfabe, you won. Celebrate and figure it out later.
Yeah, kayfabe, brother. What are you doing, dude? He's a longtime veteran, so he should know better than that. But regardless, I think that they started to, at the end of it, they still did their all jaw jacking and going nose to nose and kind of continuing the storylines of the feuds that were in play in this match. So, and then we're going to see more interaction between Goto and Gabe Kidd moving forward, injury or non to Jake Lee. And I think that they have started to kind of implement that finish of that match into their other matches moving forward. So, they're going to try and turn chicken salad out of chicken shit,
Yeah. Like I said, I talked about Jake Lee being injured. They mentioned that he's going to be going under evaluation, and his return date is to be determined. So as of this recording, we don't know how serious the right foot injury is and if he will be able to come back soon.
I hope he comes back very soon. I can't wait to see more Jake Lee matches. Can't wait.
So following that, we had LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Yota Tsuji defeating the United Empire team of Callum Newman, Great Okan, Hanare, Jacob, Austin Young, and Jeff Cobb.
So this was probably the best undercard match of the night. I felt like this was a pretty underwhelming show, top to bottom. I mean, kind of. I don't really ever count the Young Lion match because that's almost like in its own, sort of universe. But yeah, this was good for what it was. I mean, there was a lot of sort of interwoven stories that are kind of continuing between the members of LIJ and United Empire. Um, they did start to kind of continue to tease the friction between Jeff Cobb and Yota Tsuji, but I don't know if there's any plans in place for them to have a rematch. It sort of feels like they booked themselves into a corner the last time, so I don't know if that's something that they're ready to revisit one way or the other.
Yeah, they might have to with Narita being hurt, and we don't know how serious that injury is. If he's out for a while, yeah, they might need to pivot and go back to a rematch with Tsuji.
It felt to me like the best interactions in the match, though, were between Shingo and Toa Hanare. Like that was sort of the standout for me throughout this match and what I really enjoyed. And obviously, Naito and Great O'Connor kind of doing their thing, but they're very much in house show mode, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nobody was trying to break a sweat here on this one with those guys. But yeah, Shingo Hanare, and they're getting ready for a never open weight title match coming up in Kobe, so we're kind of heating that up. And of course, we had Jacob Austin Young here, still kind of finding his footing and placement in the unit.
I'm not fully sold on Jacob Austin Young. Like, fine work, the work's good. Definitely doesn't seem to necessarily have the first tour in Japan jitters or anything like that. But the look isn't necessarily one to where I'm like, this screams a junior superstar, like somebody that the fans are going to get behind. Like Callum Newman, when he was smaller, like he screamed, okay, this is a guy that we can like, that has some marketability behind him. But like, I don't know if I see that with Jacob Austin Young. I think that he, just putting the green colors on him and then him doing a sliced bread's not going to be enough. He needs some sort of thing to connect him, whether it's a gimmick or doesn't even have to. I mean, it's Japan, so it doesn't have to be an overly like expressive gimmick, but he needs some sort of character that is going to be definitive as to who he is and what he represents in that group.
Yeah, I mean, all the guys in the group, they all have kind of something, Yeah, Cal Newman, he's a prince of pace. He's a guy that moves really fast. You got Jeff Cobb, the Imperial unit. He's a huge guy. It's hard to take him down. You got, obviously Great O'Con, the most gimmicky out of all of them, and kind of his evolved like vampire gimmick thing to, Japanese playboy kind of thing. And, all those guys, TJP, the Oswong, Akira, kind of the fiery Italian babyface, Hanare, that Islander warrior, like they all kind of have their thing. They're not super over the top. Maybe you can say Ocon a little bit, but they all kind of have their characters. They all kind of have their place. And yeah, I don't know if like being called Dangerous J is exactly the thing that's going to get him over.
Well, even like, take TJ Perkins, for example, before the Oswong thing, he didn't necessarily he wasn't necessarily somebody that exuded an overly definitive character in and of himself, but he had swagger. He had, colorful things about him that made him stand out. Even if it's not like, hey, this is a true superstar. It's like, this is a guy in the division. We can kind of get behind him. He knows who he is. But with Jacob Austin Young, and this is not hate, this is just constructive criticism. I mean, very much create a wrestler, super basic. There's not much to dig into there right now. And maybe that will remain to be seen. Maybe I'm wrong here, but as of now, I am a little surprised that he's the guy out of everybody that they had in those in those New Japan Strong shows that they decided to take the shot on and bring to Japan. And I'm not trying to, speak ill of him. I mean, that's great. He got the opportunity, but there were definitely like guys that I personally was very high on in New Japan Strong that just never got to come over, or if they did, it was like once or twice, and they're not part of any like major factions. They don't have like a definitive role in the company. I just think it's interesting. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, you look at also guys like Filthy Tom Lawler and Fred Rosser and Bad Dude Tito, who is in a faction and never gets brought over. There's so many guys from New Japan Strong that are really good and have that kind of standout piece to them, have that charisma, have that in-ring ability that are not being brought over tours. And again, yeah, not knocking Jacob Austin Young. I think he's really good. But when you compare him to some of the other guys that they've had on Strong shows, compared to him and why they're not being brought over to Japan, yeah, it's kind of a little questionable. Even a guy like Young Fuego, Adrian Quest, who like
that's a name I was going to mention, is like, not saying that I'm advocating that I'm like, oh, Adrian Quest was the guy he needed to be here. I'm not even necessarily saying that, but like someone like him, or like, for instance, Barrett Brown, 2 guys, clear juniors, maybe not like top stars, but like there's something about them. You know who they are, what they represent. The work is good. They connect. I didn't remember that Jacob Austin Young was ever part of Strong, to be honest with you. Like, he wasn't like to me, a super definitive name in that group to begin with.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised by it.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how this continues to go, and yeah, if they eventually do bring him back, and kind of what his future will be with New Japan going forward.
I mean, on the one hand, you would say like, well, they got to bring him back, right? Like, he's part of the group, but then it's like, when was the last time we saw Gideon Gray,
Yeah, when we see Gideon Gray, when's the last time we saw Bad Dude Tito in Japan?
Yeah, Bad Dude Tito's a member of Team Decay. We haven't seen him in years.
Yeah, so.
Maybe not that long, but still,
yeah.
Feels like it.
Rambone Slam Pig says, how much Chonko does Hiromu need to eat to just move permanently to heavyweight status? Do you think that that is his direction for 2025 and beyond?
I don't know. But, Jeremy, I did have a thought today. I wish I would have wrote it down, but I was like, I'm sort of at the point with this company where I would be okay with them trying. Okay, here are some ideas. They're very much outlandish, things they're not going to do, but things I would just be like, at this point, I'm okay with them trying. I would be okay with them trying to put the world title on a junior if it was the right guy, particularly probably Hiromu. I'd also be okay with them putting it on a guy that you wouldn't expect them to put it on, like a Ishii or a Goto, someone that is like very tenured, has never held the title, and you're kind of ready for them to like do that. I'd be fine with that. I'd also be fine if they decided to put it on one of the young guys. If I had to choose for one guy, like, that I think could maybe have a quick reign with the belt, maybe Oleg Boltin. I think that'd be justifiable if you pushed him the right way. I'm also kind of ready for them to, put the title on a Gaijin, or I shouldn't say that word, a foreigner, which to me would be like Zach, which it looks like they're going that way. But like, I'm okay with them trying some different things. And like, if we got to put it on an older guy or a younger guy or a little guy, like, let's do something we don't normally do. I mean, they did put the title on Mox earlier this year. That was a bust, but like, let's try something.
Yeah, shake things up. Don't go to the normal booking pattern, which they are kind of shaking things up a little bit. I'll see what Zach win the G1 and him getting the fall title shot instead of the Dome, and he's probably going to win the belt. So they're, in some areas they are trying things, and in other areas they do need to mix it up. And yeah, with a guy like Hiromu and him losing that never title, I don't know what the heavyweight direction with him going forward. I mean, clearly there still seems to be somewhat of a little bit of a tease for him and Naito, so maybe they get to that match somehow at the Dome. But I do think the best thing, and we've said it over and over on the show, is to push him in that open weight division. He's a top star. He's a draw. He can compete with heavyweights. He can have great matches, and I think it would be good for business.
Well, we had been, we've been theorizing that the match between Hiromu and Hanare that just took place, which, by the way, again, can't recommend that match high enough. Like, that match was incredible. But that title match for the Never Belt, everyone sort of thought that Hiromu was going to win that title, then turn around and defend that title, later on in the year at the Tokyo Dome versus Naito. Now that I've had some time to kind of reflect on it and think about it, I don't really know why necessarily that match would even need a title to begin with. I mean, I feel like the match is just as marketable and just as strong with or without the title. I mean, yeah, the Never Belt would be like a cherry on top, but I still have to think that with all that effort that they put into painting that picture and telling that story, that, and teasing the idea that we might get Naito and Hiromu at some point in the near future during that video package the other week in Corkin, it just seems like too much for them to. They clearly realize that they've got a money match on their hands. You look at both guys, what are they going to be doing at the Dome? And it's like, if hypothetically Naito loses the belt, he's going to need a dance partner. And we're probably not that, as much as people don't want to hear it, like, we don't know how many more domes we really have when it comes to Tetsuya Naito. Mm-hmm. So, like, if we're going to ever do this match, like, now's probably the time to go ahead and just get it done. So I wouldn't be surprised if we still wind up getting that match just in a non-title capacity.
Yeah, I mean, and that'd probably be the best thing to do, to give those guys a high-profile match and do a kind of a big, special singles match, quote-unquote kind of dream match, and, kind of make it, the years in the making forward, 4 years in the making of this match, and put it out there.
Yeah, because, I mean, keep in mind, the first time they were going to do it, like, yes, Naito was the double gold dash champion, and he held the IC and the world title, or the heavyweight belt, but it wasn't a title match, if I recall. I think it was just an anniversary junior versus heavyweight match.
Yeah, pretty sure Hiromu was the junior champion, so it was the traditional junior champ versus heavyweight champ anniversary show main event. So yeah, that's the angle they were going, special, champion versus champion non-title. But yeah, without any titles and it being in the Tokyo Dome, and how much, I mean, just how the crowd reaction was when Hiromu lost, and how invested they were in him, that Hanare match. Like, they wanted to see that match. And so, yeah, like you mentioned, I think they know they have a money match on their hands. The crowd is invested. And so I think that's definitely the move to go, title or no title.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say or proclaim that I think that down the line Hiromu is going to be a long-term heavyweight contender or a top guy or anything like that. I mean, I think it should, but I'm not convinced that they're going that way, but I do think we're going to get that match the more I think about it. And maybe it could be the next step to, maybe that match could be the catalyst to getting Hiromu to the next step, maybe being more in the heavyweight ranks.
Yeah. So following that, the main event, we had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match. DOUKI defeats the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori in 22 minutes and 21 seconds to retain the championship.
Yeah, I thought this match was very good. I think that there's a lot of folks who kind of consider it more of like a great match and enjoyed it a little bit more than me. I think part of it, again, just kind of goes back to the past few weeks I've been talking about Taiji Ishimori and how hard for me to kind of connect with him from a character standpoint. And we did mention how under the right circumstances, when the time is right and he's called upon to do it, he can definitely get up and ball. And that's what he did in this match. He really put his working boots on and he showed out. But I'm just kind of over. I think like it's sort of a played out act, and it's hard for me to connect with him, like to have any real like, I don't know what the word is, like investment into what's going on with him. I did at the same time still have that fear that we're at that point in the year where it's easy for them to have switched the title to Taiji Ishimori from DOUKI. And I was rooting for DOUKI, so there was that bit of emotional investment. the closing sequences were fantastic in this match, and it really kind of came down to the wire where you didn't know who might potentially have this one. They did a great job. I mean, Taiji Ishimori like had a extremely vicious arm attack on DOUKI, which he does in every match, so that's nothing new. But this was a little bit more kind of inspired work. And DOUKI is an incredible babyface in peril, you know. But yeah, at the end there, I forget what move it was, but they transitioned into like, it looked like they were going to do one thing, and then Ishimori was countering out of it, and then it turned into the suplex de la Luna, and he tried to get out of it, like, and he got caught because he was trying to avoid a different move altogether. So like, whoever laid out that spot was pretty awesome, because that was a great sequence. But yeah, I thought the match was very good. A lot of people are calling this the best junior heavyweight match in New Japan this year, and it very well might be. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I have to go back and look and see out. It might be up there. I don't know. I mean, I was like around 4.25 with this match. I know a lot of people were higher. I've seen some higher ratings on this match, but yeah, I thought it was a very, very good main event. I thought Ishimori put his working boots on. You know, sometimes he's not motivated, but main event here, title match, I thought he really brought, like you mentioned, very vicious on the arm attacks. And yeah, I thought it was a really good back and forth matchup here. Lots of high flying, lots of arm work, like you mentioned. And so going back and forth, he had one ref bump in the middle of the match, but it wasn't anything too crazy. When Ishimori went for the mule kick to the groin and a crucifix driver for a near fall there. But overall, yeah, really good matchup. Like you mentioned, DOUKI ends up hitting the suplex de la Luna towards the end there to get the win. And then we get a big post-match celebration. DOUKI's on the mic. You know, they shoot off the confetti. He's celebrating with just 5 guys. And then all those guys say they walk to the back. And then Kanemaru comes out with the whiskey, hits him over the head, leaves him laying. Just 5 guys run back and clear the ring of Kanemaru. So it seems like Yoshinobu Kanemaru is next up for DOUKI.
Yeah, and I mean, they've got history from their time together in Just 5 Guys, as well as Suzuki-gun. And, you know, that betrayal from Kanemaru when he jumped to House of Torture was, you know, that was a pretty big betrayal for DOUKI. And I think that Kanemaru is usually a really good title challenger, and usually kind of brings a different element to those matches. So I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I don't expect DOUKI to drop the title to Kanemaru. But you know, we'll see. I feel like this is just another rack up defense. But I mean, at this point for DOUKI, I mean, he's got to pretty much have like Junior of the Year locked up. We're almost at the tail end, and it's like he beat Hiromu, he beat Desperado, and now he's beaten Taiji Ishimori, all in major singles matches at the top of the card. Like, that's the big 3. And then, you know, not even taking into consideration how awesome his Super Juniors is. Like, I feel like he's got the shit locked up already.
Yeah, it seems like that way. And yeah, I love the video package pre-match. Yeah, they made a big deal of him, going through the big 3. And so, yeah, he nailed all 3 of those guys down, and he's cleared the division out. And so now we're getting some new challengers to come at him. And so we got Kanemaru. Who knows, maybe Akira is going to be next. But yeah, he's going to definitely need some new challenges. But yeah, he's had a really great year. Going back to the beginning of the year, some of the surprise upsets he had, beating Hiromu earlier on in the year before even defending the title against him. And so, he just had a lot of great moments. He had, like you mentioned, great Super Juniors, and then beating Desperado for the title. So, yeah, really, really great year for DOUKI. So now we're going to jump over to night 5 of the Road Destruction Tour. This was Saturday, September 14th in Noburetsu City General Gymnasium. Show opened up. We had Kazushi Sakuraba teaming up with Toriano to defeat Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yasuda. Any thoughts on Sakuraba coming back here?
I liked the opening of this show where they opened up with the drums and the pageantry. I don't fully grasp I know we talked a little bit about it, that there was some sort of Noburetsu Festival. And I sort of take it that this is what Yano's hometown.
I don't know if it's hometown, but I know this was like a big like a Hokkaido tour that they've been like working on. It's like one of the stops on the tour.
Okay, so I don't know the significance, but it seemed like it was his hometown. Like he worked twice on the night. They did a big presentation with him and everything like that. But yeah, I thought it was cool that they opened up with the drums and everything. And it kind of, I mean, on a very small scale, not anywhere near the production of it, but I remember back in the day, like Pride Fighting Championships would have cool like pageantry and production and things that were unique to Japan that sort of celebrated the culture and also added a sense of celebration to what they were doing. And they'd have huge like drums shit and everything, and girls come out and do dances and lights and stuff. And this was obviously much smaller scale, but I'm like, yeah, why can't New Japan do like some cool stuff like this? Like that didn't cost anything. They just had to have some drummers come out and bang the drums. I thought that was cool. I love Sakuraba. I absolutely do it. I think at one point there was a very competent professional wrestler inside of him. And for those of you, if this is the first time you're ever seeing him, just know that you're seeing quite literally, most likely the greatest mixed martial arts fighter in the history of Japan. And what makes that notable was that like he derived all his like training from catch wrestling. Like it was all he learned all of that in the Snake Pit with Billy Robinson and was trained in those dojos, and he brought it over from Shoot Style. In the 90s, there were times where he was working New Japan shows and during the crossover with the UWFI and Kingdom and shit like that. And he had some pretty good matches. But and even some of those Sakuraba matches in like the 2010s were pretty cool. And the match with Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom. But fuck, this was bad, bro. He's broken down, like, and I don't think he can really go when it comes to even just being on the mat in a rolling situation too much. I mean, I'm sure he knows all his tricks and everything, but just like physically, he's pretty broken down at this point. And I mean, watching him run the ropes and take a buckle was rough. That being said, pretty cool experience for those young lions to get in there with one of the greatest legends of combat sports in Japan, a legend like Kazushi Sakuraba. So even in that state, they're going to be able to say that they wrestled him, that they learned something from him, they took something away from that. That's an incredible experience. So I was still glad to see him show up. I just want to preface it and say this was across the board. This is a terrible show. Not a good show at all. But there was notable things that happened, and Sakuraba wrestling was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely kind of a cool thing to have him on the show and kind of a throwback and kind of that cool moment. But yeah, like you mentioned, he's definitely kind of a shell of his former self. And yeah, it was not moving the best and was definitely very broken down. But that kept the match pretty simple, and you didn't have to do too crazy spots there. One thing I do want to kind of comment on your whole thing about, the pageantry, and as I've been like reviewing some of the stuff for Dominion Deep Dive and kind of going back and just seeing like some of the stuff they used to do, I feel like they used to make things a bigger deal, and there was kind of more pageantry and honor, and you had all these sponsors like bringing checks and flowers and trophies and awards, and there was flags, and I feel like the celebrations for when somebody won were much bigger, and they did a better job of just making every moment kind of feel bigger and grander than what it is.
Yeah, I certainly missed the post-match stuff that you're mentioning, but they even used to have like pre-show stuff and stuff before big matches. Like they on this show in the main event, they brought out the flowers and everything like that, and that used to be and you still see it in a lot of Japanese pro-resu wrestling companies, but you just don't see that very often in New Japan. Streamers, all sorts of shit that you just don't see anymore.
Yeah. So Sakuraba Yano get the win here, and then following that we had the Noburetsu Rambo match. So we had 20 guys here, and the Roughneck Shota Umino wins the Rambo. And other entrants, we had DOUKI, Akira, Tenzan, Jado, Murashima, Fujita, Taguchi, Sanada, Sho, Shomakato, Taichi, Taka, Iska, Tiger Mask, Hanma, Tomoya, Kanemaru, Yuma 24, and Zack Sabre Jr. And the most notable thing there, the last two were Umino and Zack, and Umino eliminated Zack to win this Rambo match.
I saw people joking that Yuma 24 was just Kenta doing a gimmick, and I believed them. Because it looked, I thought that's what it actually was. But then he came out and he's bad bodied, and I was like, oh, that's even on his worst day, that's not Kenta.
Yeah, Kenta was in Atlanta trying to win the Opera Cup.
We've seen Tomoya. I think he worked one of those like,
he's been in the Frontier Zone several times.
That's what it was. He was in the Frontier Zone. So yeah, a couple outsiders that got a little bit of exposure in a Rambo match. That was cool. I think one of the big notable spots of the night was Takashi Iizuka coming in, and the never ending storyline between him and freaking Tenzan that's just never going to die. And Tenzan has slimmed down considerably. Like, he's so small at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got the whole stuff with Tenzan and him, and he brought out the claw, and then
he attacked the announcer guy that he always attacks. And
Taichi was out there. Taichi, took it to Iizuka and everything like that. But the real notable thing at the end, like you mentioned, it wasn't just that Shota Umino won, but that the final three men in the match were Sanada, Zack Sabre Jr., and then Shota Umino. And then it came down to just Zack and Umino. And it sort of felt to me like we could in the event that Zack wins the title, we could easily be lining up his first two challengers right here, right now, because we already know that Sonata's in. But we had the question last week where people were asking us, what did we think about the singles match loss that he suffered in the G1 to Shota Umino, and if that was going to be, in play. And I guess we probably didn't have the vision, because it looks like now that he's gotten this win in this Rambo, it kind of gives him some validity to a potential, title match if, Zack wins the belt, which it's looking more and more like he probably will.
Yeah, I think with Sanada pinning him and Umino winning this Rambo here, they're definitely kind of setting the place for the rest of the fall. So I could definitely see, Zack beats Naito at King of Pro Wrestling, goes to Royal Quest, defends against Sanada. Umino comes out post-match, challenges him. Then a power struggle, Zack defends against Umino, and then we're on track with Zack heading to the Dome.
Yeah, because, think about the logic of it. If it was a situation where, because obviously Zack's not defending his title shot, right? We're not doing that whole entire build. So there's really no reason for him to be losing right now at all.
Right.
Because he's on his way to a title shot. If anything, you'd be wanting to build him up and heat him up and give him nothing but wins, most likely. There's really no valid reason to have him lose in the run-up to facing Naito for the title, other than he's going to win the belt, and you need to have some title matches lined up. And that's the only thing that really makes a lot of sense. Maybe it would make sense if these guys were in line for their own sort of title shots, and maybe down the line, Zack could be potentially like angling for one of their titles, but that's not the way we're going. So, it's telling me all signs point to Zack winning that title before the Royal Quest show.
Yeah, like you said, with him being the challenger to Naito, it's like, normally you'd want him, winning that tag match and winning this Rambo and giving him as much momentum as possible. But I think, you got to set up stuff for the rest of the year, build some challengers for him. And so, I definitely think him losing is definitely puts him more in favor of winning the title come King of Pro Wrestling. And so, I do definitely think that Umino will end up being the next challenger after Sanada. And we did have a question here from Barry Walsh. He says, with Zach losing to Sonata and to Umino in the Rambo, is he more likely now to win the belt with 2 potential challengers now set up? So yeah, pretty much just answered that question from Barry. Definitely think that, yeah, Zach is way more likely now for him to win the title than lose. Because if he does lose, I just don't think it really makes sense with losing those 2 matches. So yeah, I think he's going to beat Naito, and then, yeah, we got 2 challengers heated up for him now. So then, following that match, we had the Chaos team of Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi defeating the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Dave Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Gato in 10 minutes and 48 seconds. So, Gato filling in here for Jake Lee. So again, it seems like they are building this matchup here between Goto and Gabe Kidd, kind of based off of the fallout from the match the previous night where Jake Lee got hurt. So yeah, fine matchup here. Kind of accomplished the point here of getting these guys back in the ring. Also kind of building up Yoshihashi and David Finlay. So after the match, Gabe Kidd did challenge Hiroki Goto to a singles match at Destruction in Kobe.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know if we were on the way potentially down the line to some sort of Bishamon versus Mad Bastards match. I don't know what the timeline looks like for them to have potentially go on there, but one way or the other, we've wound up at a spot where we're getting this singles match between Gabe Kidd and Hiroki Goto.
Yeah, one quick thing, one correction. Actually, it was the Bullet Club team that won this match, not the Chaos team. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was going to correct you, but I don't want to embarrass you on the live on there. I liked David Finlay's new gear. He's got the green joints on now.
Yeah, look good.
Just want to throw that out there. I liked him.
Yeah, so yeah, it was the Bullet Club team. They got the win after Gabe Kidd did a brain buster for a near fall and then hit the pile driver. So again, kind of like you mentioned, that brain buster vertical drop suplex kind of coming into play here towards the end of this match. And then Finlay attacked Yoshihashi after the bell. So really building up these 2 feuds, and Gato on the rare end of a win here. So that definitely makes me think that Mad Bastards are going to, win all these undercard stuff to lead to them facing Bishamon with him not eating the pin here. So
potentially the only thing that throws a wrench in that thought process is the potential timing of the Yoshihashi and David Finlay match that's on the horizon. So, but yeah, I mean, and like you mentioned, Gabe Kidd, it wasn't just a vertical suplex when he hit it. He hit a true blue brainbuster, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, this match was exactly what you'd expect from War Dogs and Chaos at this point in time.
Yeah. Then following that, we had United Empire, Cal Newman, Great Okan Hanare, Jacob Austin Young, and Jeff Cobb defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Yota Tsuji. So, I mean, pretty much similar to the previous match, kind of getting LIJ and Yui in there feuding, building up some of their upcoming matchups. But yeah, pretty good matchup with Hanare getting the Ultima on Bushi for a submission win.
Both matches very good, good quality for a Road to show where these 2 teams of this caliber are facing one another in the semi-main event each night. They got a good amount of time. Everybody got their shit in. The one thing that's funny is, like, at the end of these matches, you always know when it's going to be the finish, because it's the spot where one guy comes in, hits a signature, another guy hits a signature, and so on and so forth. And they all trade back and forth until the penultimate moment where someone gets their shit in, isolates a guy, and then finishes. And you always know what's happening, but it's always still fun and always still exciting. So it works for what it is. But these were both good, not highly recommended, but good, preview 10-man, 8-man tags.
Yeah. So that takes us to the main event for the never openweight 6-man tag team titles. We had the champions Tanahashi, Boltin Oleg, and Toriano retaining and defeating the House of Torture of Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro in 16 minutes and 51 seconds.
Terrible. I mean, you knew that House of Torture there's no way they're going to put a major title on Dick Togo. It's bad enough that they would have been potentially putting, I guess it's not a major title, but a 6-man, even the 6-man tag team titles is like too high of a caliber of accolade at this point in time to put on Dick Togo. And, if they're going to put Yujiro, a belt on Yujiro, he needs to be the weak link of the group, not Dick Togo. So you already kind of knew where this was going. But this was the House of Torture special. Everything that you'd expect from a House of Torture match, you got all of it. Toriano played double duty, working the opening tag and the main event here. Good experience for Oleg Boltin. Tanahashi's looking broken down. I wish I wasn't so pessimistic here. And I know there's probably somebody out there that would love to get the super detailed breakdown on this riveting, Hantai versus House of Torture, main event. But I don't know, man. 17-minute, just like like on AEW this past week. I didn't see this skip, but I heard that Jon Moxley said something about Daniel Bryan not having the stomach for it. That's me, bro. I don't have the stomach for this never open weight House of Torture shit. Like, we're done with House of Torture,
We done with the House of Torture.
We're done, bro. I don't need to see any more of this. I've had my fill. It's too much.
Yeah,
doing too much.
Well, they rolled out everything here. So of course we had a ref bump in the matchup, which allowed Sho and Kanemaru to come out. So we had a 5-on-3 beatdown. Evil and Dick Togo hit a magic killer on Yano for a near fall, but Tanahashi makes a save. Dick Togo hit a pedigree on Yano, but then Oleg hit the kamikaze on Togo. Tanahashi hits the high fly flow. Yano hits a standing power bomb and pins Dick Togo. So the Bayfaces were able to rally and come back and overcome the 5-on-3 beatdown and retain the titles. And, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this thing is over. There's more to come on the destruction in Kobe. And that will take us to the Destruction in Kobe card. So this show coming up, this is September 29th, so a couple weeks away. We got Tiger Mask, Hanma, Nagata taking on Dragon Dia, Taguchi, and Shota Umino. We'll have the LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu, and Yota Tsuji against the United Empire team of Cal Newman, Francisco Akira, and Jeff Cobb. We'll have a non-title matchup between Hiroki Goto and Gabe Kidd. We're going to have TMDK revealing their new mystery member, teaming up with Kosei Vegeta and Zack Sabre Jr. to take on Sanada, Taichi, and Taka Michinoku. And we had a question here from Barry Walsh. Is Oiwa about to join TMDK when he comes back, with Zack saying his new member is a good boy and Oiwa had training with Ogawa and Noah, who also influenced Zack a lot. Could a power wrestler like Oiwa become the most rounded of the new generation if he honed some submission skills from Zack like Vegeta did?
I mean, it's definitely possible that's what we're leading to. I'm sort of hoping that, and it's just so hard, man, because again, we've talked ad nauseum over the past couple of years about how they're going to bring these guys back, how they're going to be used, how they're going to be portrayed. And there was like a logjam for so long where nobody was coming back. And then now everybody's back at the same time. And really nobody has stood out head and shoulders above the pack. And with how long Oiwa's been gone, and not just gone, but like in Noah, used domestically, kind of used prominently, had this big program on the tail end of his time there with Kiyomiya. You kind of want something a little bit more on par with some of the big star presentations that they've done in the past with guys, whether that be Switchblade Jay White or Hiromu Takahashi or the Great Okan. The closest they've gotten to that was probably the way they brought in Tsuji, but they really failed to kind of capitalize on that even. And I don't want to see him being brought in just in the same manner like Yumura, like, hey, he's just a guy in this group, and now we're just going to park him for a few years, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be kind of disappointing if he is the mystery person with TMDK. First of all, I think it's special to have Vegeta kind of be the only Japanese member of that group. So you bring him, you kind of take that away from Vegeta. And also, it's like, yeah, he's been in Noah. He's been in a main event program with a GHC World Champion this whole year arc with Kiyomiya. Like you mentioned, domestic. So, you know, Japanese fans are seeing this guy. He's getting great reactions in Noah. And so, yeah, why bring him back as just another kind of underling to Zack Sabre Jr.? Like we need to get these young guys over. We need to create some main event talent. Well, it's good. You're not going to have him usurp Zack and take over TMDK. Like, he should come back, either be his own man or start his own faction and be presented as a main event level threat, not kind of like a young boy 2.0 where it's like, oh yeah, he's back, but he still has to be under somebody and be a part of a bigger faction. I think now is the time. Like, these guys, all of them, like Oiwa, Umino, Tsuji, like, these guys should be leading their own factions, being pushed in the main event, because perception is reality. If he comes back as just another guy in TMDK, that's what people are going to see him like. And then when it's finally time to pull the trigger, people are not going to believe in him as a main eventer because he's been stuck under Zack the whole time.
I'm okay with them, you know, if they do what you're saying and they bring him in and portray him as a true blue main eventer and maybe even build a faction around him. I'm okay with that. I've got no qualms about that whatsoever. But I do think it's okay if he comes in as part of a faction. I just want better creative and utilization of him than to just be a guy. He shows up, he's working tag teams. You know, it's months and months before he ever even has a singles feud. Nothing meaningful is happening. You know, Dome season's right around the corner. Well, is this guy going to be on the card? Like, what's the deal? You know, at this point, I would almost rather he not be the surprise TMDK guy, and we just wait for him to come back either for the Dome or post Dome, you know, for that, for, you know, like New Year's Dash or something like that, something that's actually newsworthy. Because like you said, I think now's the time to do something different and to kind of shake things up. And like, they need something a little bit more inspiring from creative.
Yeah. So also on Destruction in Kobe, we'll have the never openweight 6-man title match. Tanahashi, Bolton, and Yano will defend once again against the House of Torture, but this time it'll be Evil, Sho, and Yujiro.
I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped those belts at that point.
Yeah. Then we'll also have the IWGP Junior title. Doki will defend against Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Hanare will defend the never title against Shingo. Dave Finlay will defend the global title against Yoshihashi. And then the main event will be Tetsuya Naito defending against Great Okan. And Death Triangle 720 asks, for the show, the Kobe show, what's your expectations level right now?
I mean, it doesn't look to me on paper like a blowaway show, something that's stand out and we're going to remember forever. But I mean, anytime you've got, you know, 4 top title matches at the top of the card and a tag team title that's on the line and some other singles matches and, you know, a surprise guys coming in. It's hard to kind of complain about that when it's New Japan, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, yeah, it's a fun card. There's going to be some really good matches on here and moving them things forward. So it should be a fun card. We'll do our full preview and predictions for that next week. So we got some time. Got a week off pretty much of New Japan shows this week. They got some house shows running, but nothing airing on New Japan World. So we'll come back next week to preview and do the predictions for this show.
Yeah, so let's jump into the news. So first bit of news, very unfortunate and sad. Kuniaki Kobayashi has passed away at the age of 68. Kobayashi, he started training at the NJPW dojo as a teenager in the 1970s, later became a figure in the early days of the junior heavyweight division. He was the second ever world junior heavyweight champion in All Japan, defeating Hiro Saito for the belt in 1986. The following year, he became the fourth champion in IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship history when he defeated Nobuhiko Takada in the finals of a tournament. During this time, he had memorable bouts with Tiger Mask 2, which was Mitsuhara Misawa, Hiroshi Hase, Jushin Liger, Owen Hart, amongst others. His match against Tiger Mask 2 on June 12th, 1985 was voted Match of the Year in the annual Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. Kobayashi was diagnosed with colon cancer in 1992 and underwent multiple surgeries. He retired from full-time competition in 2000 and was awarded the Tokyo Sports Services Award that same year. After retirement, Kobayashi became manager of NJPW's Noge Dojo. So literally for basically a few decades now, there's nobody that has come through that dojo that Kobayashi hasn't had a significant hand in training, which is the entirety of like the New Japan locker room, many like foreigners that have come in and out of the company. It's a big blow for the company, honestly.
Yeah, I saw lots of talent kind of pouring out their condolences and comments about him and just what he meant to the company. And yeah, kind of being a key part of that Noge Dojo system. So I think, yeah, definitely going to be a presence that's missed. We've seen some of his stuff in the junior heavyweight stuff back in the day. And yeah, he was definitely a great guy in that division. We mentioned the Tiger Mask 2 match there in 85, winning the Observer Newsletter Award. So definitely a key figure in the early days of Japanese wrestling and especially New Japan Pro Wrestling, really helping establish that junior heavyweight division.
Yeah, I saw that they had some free matches up on New Japan World related to his memorial. And I was kind of surprised at the picks they had. And I honestly, I think it's because they don't have any of the stuff from the 80s and the 90s really up on the network, even still. And I don't know, you would feel like he just passed away. Now would be the time to put up like the good matches that he had, especially the Tiger Mask ones at the very least, like put up those 3 Tiger Mask matches at minimum. Maybe put up the Liger. Well, I'm sure the Liger match from the first Tokyo Dome show is probably on there, but
yeah, I know that there was a Tiger Mask. One of the Tiger Mask matches were on there. I don't know which one it was.
I don't know, man. But yeah, it's very sad, very unfortunate. He did live a long life. 68 is still relatively young though, so you hope to see situations like that where someone has a little bit more longevity. So it is unfortunate. It's very sad. Yeah. I was a big fan of Kobayashi. For those that don't know, I'm a big fan of 1980s Puroresu and professional wrestling. So seen a lot of Kuniaki Kobayashi through the years. He was involved in many of those really incredible like 10-man tags and gauntlets at the top period of New Japan in the 80s as well. So yeah, I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen his work, to go out and find it. He was one of the most innovative and formidable junior stars of the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, so they put up the Fighting Spirit Series match from 1982. It's the WWF Junior Heavyweight Championship match, him and Tiger Mask.
In other news, Ricochet told the Battleground podcast, I don't even know what the Battleground podcast is, but I guess they got what's it called where the people write about you?
I'm blank. Aggregated.
Yeah, they got aggregated, but that he's excited to return and reunite with Shima for GLEAT. He also has goals in NJPW that he still wants to achieve. When asked about potentially returning to NJPW for a G1 tournament, Ricochet said it's absolutely something he's interested in. he said that he's already won the best of the Super Juniors in 2014, so he feels now like he needs to upgrade his goals to the G1. And there's still a lot of things in New Japan that he didn't get to accomplish that he still plans on accomplishing. So, could just be lip service. We'll see. But potentially we could see Ricochet down the line. 2 matches were added to Royal Quest: Sonata versus Zack Sabre Jr., and then TMDK versus Tanahashi and Ishii for the Strong Tag Team titles. Are TMDK not the IWGP Tag Champs?
Yeah, they're double champs.
So they're just going to defend the one belt, not the other?
Yeah.
It's fucking weird. Anyways, main event for Blue Justice and Chiba was announced. Yuji Nagata and Jun Akiyama versus Atsushi Kotoge and Go Shiozaki. I believe those 4 men just wrestled to some sort of draw in a recent Noah card. So that kind of set up this match. November 12th, Taiji Ishimori will be in charge of a special event in Tokyo's Shinjuku Face. MLW Fightland Kojima retained the MLW title against Mads Cruel Kruger via DQ. And then Mystico defeated Kenta to win the Opera Cup. So my understanding, Mystico had to defeat Bad Dude Tito.
Yep.
Kenta defeated TJP.
Yep.
And then the finals was Mystico versus Kenta for the Opera Cup.
Yes.
Okay. As well, last bit of news here, Ultimo Guerrero has challenged Satoshi Kojima for the MLW title at MLW Slaughterhouse in St. Petersburg on October 4th. We've been invited to attend that show as official members of the credentialed media, so press passes, comps, special seating, all of that. So we'll probably be there.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't sure if I wanted to go, but now, I've never seen Ultimo Guerrero wrestle at all. And then seeing him and Kojima, Fantastica Mania comes to St. Pete,
Yeah, I'm ready to, be in there, raising the roof with Ultimo, jumping up and down. And like I said in the group chat earlier, I said, if Kojima's there, I'm there. I got to enjoy this MLW run. I used to joke that, hey, Court, if you want me to watch MLW, put the belt on Kojima, bring him over, and it's finally happening. This crazy, year-long run as the champion. I thought he was going to drop the belt to Kruger, but he skated by Kruger, and now he has the Ultimo Guerrero next. So, yeah, it should be a pretty fun matchup. So that's going to take us...
Do it for the news.
Yeah, that'll take us into the question. So, first question's here from Doc in the Discord. It says, is Kevin Knight still in New Japan? The Jet Setter looks ready for big things.
I assume, I don't know that he's signed. I don't know what the contractual status is, but we see him periodically. I think everybody would like to see him more. I assume he has some sort of dual contract between them as well as Impact, it seems like. But yeah, he's looking great. And I would love to see him back in Japan more often.
Yeah, same. Also, we don't know about the contract status, but I know there was rumors, I think, at the end of last year that he didn't get a full-time deal, so maybe he is just kind of freelancing for right now. But yeah, I definitely think he's a guy they should be utilizing more. Some questions here from Barry Walsh. Says, I only heard this week that Shibata accidentally killed a young lion years ago with a wayward elbow. Do you remember this happening? And did it have some influence in him leaving New Japan? Where was the blame or a possible manslaughter case? I've never heard of this. Have you?
Yeah, there was a death of a young lion from a wayward elbow, but I think I feel like it was Kensuke Sasaki that killed that kid. I could be wrong here. Well, I know Kensuke Sasaki definitely inadvertently caused it was an accident. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Although I don't want to dive too deep into that stuff because I'm not the expert of the inner workings of the Puro system, but there are scandals that exist out there. There's enough stuff in Japan that has never really been delved upon that could they could have their own dark side of the ring sort of stuff. And if I recall, there was a Kensuke Sasaki dojo incident But now that he's saying this, I feel like maybe there was something with Shibata, but I'd have to look into it. I wish I would have read this before we got on here. Actually, I could do a little bit of digging while we're talking here for just a moment, but we can go to the next question.
All right, his next question is, with Noah touring the UK soon, having matches involving Ricky Knight Jr. and Luke Jacobs, do you think these partnerships are more open with the newfound collective approach, or have potential negative impacts if, say, New Japan wants to sign Jacob but joins Noah instead, for example?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting there, as, you know, Rev Pro's kind of been the key British partner for New Japan, and RKJ and Luke Jacobs are two of their top guys. But I think we've seen in the past where with these UK indie guys, I think whichever Japanese company kind of offers the best deal is what they're going to go to. I mean, these guys are not mutually exclusive to Rev Pro. You know, they work other independents in the UK. And so I think that, you know, if Noah had a spot opened up for them, I think they would jump at the opportunity to kind of work regularly in Japan. So it's kind of on New Japan. If they want to bring RKJ or Luke Jacobs or JJ Gale over, like, they should do it. So
yeah, I mean, I think that any opportunity that's going to be open there for those guys, I mean, you can't just count on the one company to, you know, put all your eggs in that one basket, because you don't know if it's going to pan out or not.
Right. Find anything yet on that?
I found lots of information about the Kensuke Sasaki incident. But I don't know. I've never heard it. I don't think that I've recalled anything about an incident with Shibata.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been more like widespread if it was Shibata.
So, I mean, the thing with the Kensuke Sasaki, let's see. Oh, that's right. Yeah. There was a death.
It was? Okay.
That's why, like, I was like, I wasn't sure if I was conflating the two stories or not. But yeah, there was a death in 2000 during it was during the Young Lion Cup. Yeah. But I mean, Shibata stuck around for quite a while before he left the company. So it's not like it was that was something that was inadvertent. And yeah, and you know what, the young lion that passed away was Masakatsu Fukada, and he was only 27. It was a Young Lions match, and it was a flying elbow that led to his death. And the kind of terrible part about it is that it was a subdermal hematoma that killed him.
Wow.
Yeah, which is the same thing that happened to Shibata years later for the brain hemorrhage. I forgot about that. I forgot that had happened. So yeah,
I never heard of that.
Yeah, it did happen. It was very, very early on in his career. The Kensuke Sasaki thing is very like hush hush. Nobody knows all the full details, but you know, he was one of the, I don't think he was head trainer, but he was definitely like one of the trainers in the Noge dojo or the New Japan dojo. And after that event, there was like an expose written about him, and people that came out talked about the hazing culture that was there, and pushing people beyond their limits and stuff like that. And Hiroshi Hase like left the company around that same time, and there was allegations that it was tied to his upsetness, or you know, being upset due to the trainee's death. That was in like 95, but you know, I don't know all the details there. There's a lot of unsubstantiated stuff, sort of just like rumors that kind of were going on there.
He also asked, let's just imagine for a moment tomorrow Okada or Takeshita could sign for New Japan on a 3-year deal and also full-time in Japan. Who would you take? The proven gen in Okada, but it could stifle the next generation, or Takeshita, who had a great G1, but hasn't been a top guy for a truly top Japanese promotion before?
I don't know. I mean, I get the point of the question. Okada's not going back. Like if it was up to me just based off of pure preference at this point in time right now, what do I think has more upside? Like I would probably take Takeshita, but I mean, just in terms of scenarios that aren't, I don't think either of these things are really going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think in fantasy world, I mean, I think like you mentioned, I think for just in ring standpoint right now, I think I would take Takeshita. But if you're thinking business wise, like the money you could make with bringing Okada back and him being back on top, it would definitely interfere with some of the probably your next gen plans. But if you're trying to make money and you have Okada back, like I think that's something you do.
Yeah, but it's also like once the genie's out of the bottle, the bloom falls off the rose at a certain point, and feelings have been hurt. It just happened. You know what I mean? Like, I know that this is coming from the guy that thinks he's going to headline the Dome. But to me, that's a one-off sort of situation. But like having him come back and be expected to be a main eventer with the company, not that he isn't of that caliber. He certainly is. I think that there's too many hurt feelings, with the way things happen on the way out. I feel like Takeshita, with two very unlikely scenarios, that's one that I just think could work better.
Yeah. Question here from Def Triangle 720. With Oiwa's excursion officially over, should New Japan wait to bring him back immediately without making a big impact?
I don't care how they bring him back. I just want better creative and better utilization. I know that it's not a zero-sum thing. Like it's give and take. Like for every guy that gets pushed, someone else needs to get de-pushed. And I do understand that, but I'm of the opinion that if you're going to, and I'm not like bought in specifically on Oiwa, although I am high on him, but it's like, if you as a company, you want to make an impact with this guy, you want to bring him back, you've invested all these years, you sent him on that excursion. You need to do it in an impactful way that's meaningful, that has longevity and long-term planning. And I'm fine with it if it's now. I'm fine with it if it's, just before the Tokyo Dome to set up a match. I'm also fine if it's right after that. But they need to do something that has purpose and, builds excitement.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they need to get this guy over. And so, like I said, I don't care what exactly how they're going to do it, as long as they do it well, and bring him back to make an impact and push him as a main eventer. Next question here from our friends over at the Super J-Cast. They want your thoughts, Josh, on the 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He says, I love a good horror film, and that is my all-time favorite.
Yeah, so I saw that question. I was pretty excited about it, to be honest with you. I had to wrangle my dog. I don't know. I feel like he knows we're about to be done, even though we're never done this early. I don't know.
Right, this is a light episode.
Yeah. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Probably, and there's probably a lot of people who are going to disagree with me on this, but this is just my opinion. I think that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably the scariest movie I've ever seen. It's pretty wild because, like, to me, it's a perfect slasher, and it goes beyond just being a slasher because it still has sort of like that grimy, like grindhouse sort of feel to it. And it's so early but before like the slasher genre even has fully been fleshed out at that point in time. The acting's not necessarily great, but it's a grindhouse film. So it does perfectly what it sets itself out to do. But what's amazing about that movie is like the sound design and the like feeling it conjures up. It's just a very grimy, very dirty movie. There's no gore whatsoever. Like you literally don't see any gore of any type, but it's such a gross movie because of like the way, and I don't want to like spoil. I mean, I know it's a movie that's so many years old, but like when you watch it, it's perverse. Like it's perversely vicious. It is a mean, nasty fucking movie where people are just getting fucked up so bad. And you think you're seeing things, but you're not. Like, you know, there's one scene where a girl gets put on a meat hook, right? And like you never see the hook go in at all. There's no blood, but you hear her going like for a prolonged period of time, and you're like, oh man, this is, and it doesn't stop, it just keeps going. Or like there's another kill where a guy gets hit in the head with a hammer and he's on the ground and his legs are like twitching like and it's like, oh, this is bad. I think every decade when it comes to horror has like one true stands the test of time, like stand out piece of art that people like critically acclaim it as like the best. And in the 70s, that's probably like The Exorcist. Like that's the movie that people point to as being like the definitive one. But to me, like the best horror movie of the 70s is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then like the inner workings of the cannibal family at the end of the movie and all the shit they put that I think her name's Lucy or Sally. I think it's Sally, but like the final girl, like everything that she goes through to survive that event, it's horrifying. And it's a movie that like when you watch it, it sticks with you. Like you're really uncomfortable afterwards, and like it sticks with you for days and days, and you're just like, I can't shake this dirty feeling. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is hardcore. And there's clearly been a lot of movies that are much more transgressive and have pushed the boundaries of cinema way more than that movie ever did. But it's scary, bro. It's scary as fuck. Like I think Leatherface is a scarier villain than Michael Myers or Jason or Freddy or any of those guys. Like, because it's something that could like totally be real. I don't fuck with backwoods people, bro. Like,
oh man. Well,
yeah.
we had one more question that just came in. Complete opposite of horror here. There's how about a fun and silly one? This is from Reddit user Baseline Raver. Who is the most huggable, and or who would you want to get a hug from the most?
Of what?
In New Japan, who is the most huggable, and who would you want to get hugged by the most?
Trying to see if there's listening ears. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like this question could have been easier for me if I was not married.
Miho.
Rainbow says Miho, Abe, or Peter.
Oh, Mulligan. That's a push.
Might need to do a round robin with like the New Japan managers and throw Miho, Abe.
I know other people probably are like more I don't know, silly, goofy, have fun answers for like the hug thing, make fun out of it, you know. Like if you were asking the Tunnel Talk girls, you'd probably get a really hilarious answer. But for me, I'm just like, I don't know.
Oh man. All right. Well, that is it for the questions. Last thing here before we wrap it up, a recommended match of the week. So last week,
the one thing I was gonna say, Hereditary is pretty fucking scary too. I'm like always like I feel like though like to me, and I'm not saying they're the two best horror movies of all time. Although they're up there, I feel like Hereditary and Texas Chainsaw Massacre are like the two that like always stick with me when I watch them.
Dan Coffin said, based on a real dude.
Well, what's based on a real dude?
I guess the movie you're talking about, the Chainsaw Massacre, and
well, it kind of is based on Ed Gein, but like not really. It's he said Ed Gein, but it's like so. There's a lot of movies that claim to be based on Ed Gein, but they're not really. Whatever.
Yeah. I don't mess with scary stuff,
bro. So one time, we got some time, so I could tell this story real quick. So one time, me and a buddy of mine were going to the movies. This is when me and Jeremy still were roommates, and right around that time, Spider-Man 2, which was what Far From Home, or No Way Home. Which one was it?
I don't. One of those.
One of the one with the one with Jake Gyllenhaal, his bitch ass. Jeremy wanted to see Spider-Man, right? And I knew he wanted to see Spider-Man. I was like, "Yo, we're going to the movies. You want to come?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, sure." We didn't tell him what we were going to see, and he didn't fucking ask. He just agreed to come to the movies with me and my buddy Reggie. And so like, but me and Reggie had already worked it out. We were going to see Midsommar, which is the second movie of Ari Aster. His first movie was Hereditary, like one of the scariest movies of all time. And his second offering was Midsommar. And Jeremy came out there with us, and he's like, we get there and he's like, "We're seeing Spider-Man, right?" And we're like,
"Nah."
"No, bro, we're going to see Midsommar." And he's like, "What's that?" and Jeremy's a good sport. We're like, "Bro, like, we're going to see Midsommar." And Rambone said, "Yeah, I agree, Rambone. Midsommar is incredible." But Jeremy had no idea what it was. Jeremy doesn't fuck with horror movies. And we're in there, and I just remember one point, like, Jeremy looked over and he's like, "What?" Like, he didn't say shit, but he just looked at me like, "The fuck you got me watching in here?"
Oh man, yeah. I was not, I just wanted to see some good old, Spider-Man, your neighborhood Spider-Man, saving the day. Nah, crazy backwood cult festival, whatever.
Midsommar is incredible. I've seen it so many times. It's like a comfort movie for me at this point.
I can say I've never watched it again since that day.
Oh, I watched the director's cut a few times. Extended.
For the freaks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we got this these recommended matches. Rambone says, "I got my daughter a spooky season earlier this year. Got to lay the foundation young so we can watch the crazy shit when she gets older." That's true. So my recommendation this week was Oiwa versus Kiyomiya. I watched that a little bit earlier today. Also, I did get around to watching the not their first ever match, but the match from the first night of the N1 victory. And I loved that match. I know you weren't very high on it, but like I totally see why people were super high on that match, and like the psychology and the storytelling that was on display there. I think that's one of the best excursion matches of the year, personally. This match between Oiwa and Kiyomiya, the one that just took place on Saturday. Did you get a chance to see it, Jeremy?
Yeah, I watched it today, and I like this one way better than the time limit draw.
I knew you were gonna like it better. They had a lot more conventional story beats in terms of like the actual mechanics of the work, more striking, more brawling in the crowd, more rope running and everything like that. More action, probably you would say. But to me, I don't think it matches up simply for the fact that the crowd wasn't as invested and reactive to what was transpiring. And I think it has a lot to do with the psychology of the match. That's not to say that this match wasn't good. I would still go like 4 stars on it. I thought it was really, really, really good. But I thought it kind of paled in comparison to the match they had in the N1. And so far, that's sort of what is bearing out on Cage Match as well. Although I don't always trust those guys.
Yeah, you never know what the bots are doing on there. But yeah, I don't know. This match has kind of hit my taste a little bit more. Like straight from the get-go, throwing bows, great forearm exchange at the beginning, and just fast-paced. You know, Oil has been utilizing the Dr. Bomb as one of his finishers, and straight from the rip, big Dr. Bomb, quick near fall right at the beginning of the match. And so, yeah, a lot of big bombs, a lot of big strikes, like you mentioned, brawling throughout Cork and Hall. Kiyomiya body slams Oiwa onto the hard ground there with no mats. And yeah, they're just going back and forth doing all this stuff. And at one point, Kiyomiya is targeting the leg. And he just kind of keeps catching Oiwa with drop kicks. Every time Oiwa like pick up speed, like boom, Kiyomiya gets him with a drop kick. And yeah, like there's so much, just a fast paced, great back and forth action. I don't know. I just like the pacing of this match so much better.
Yeah, the pacing was a lot closer to like a modern style match, and there was a lot more fire for sure. And I thought it was a fantastic blow off. I loved the finish where you sort of would have expected Kiyomiya to have hit one of his like finishers, but instead he ended up grabbing, I don't remember the name of, it's the same pinfall that Darby Allin does in AEW. What is that move called?
Yeah, Darby calls his the Last Supper.
The Last Supper. Yeah, I don't know what the technical term for it is, but he basically did his version of that same pinfall in order to defeat Oiwa, which was a little surprising considering that they were both hitting some pretty big finishing sequences down the stretch, and he utilized a roll up to beat him, but it wasn't like a roll up out of nowhere. Like it didn't feel unearned or cheap the way that it happened, but it felt definitive enough, but not as definitive as if he would have just left him laying. So sort of kind of made Oiwa still look fairly strong, even though he got defeated like pretty clean, which I thought was interesting. One thing too, the way that they were doing the move, Oiwa clearly knew it was the finish, and his shoulder was actually rolling up. And as soon as they started counting, he like put that shit back, put that shit down so that there wouldn't be any visual of his shoulder being up, because he didn't want to make it look like he was pulling some carny shit or anything.
Yeah, like that dude at CCW in that tag match.
Yeah. But I loved the first match from the N1. I thought that was phenomenal, like phenomenal. Just incredible. And the crowd, the way the crowd responded to that match, like that was a special match.
Yeah, I think I really should not have watched the Ishii JJ Gale match before I watched that match. I think that kind of hurt kind of what I was wanting and expecting after watching the Ishii match. I should have watched the opposite up, but I mean, both great matches. So yeah.
I did not find the time to watch Ishii Fletcher, though I would like to this week.
Yeah, I watched it also today. Great matchup. Again, similar to Oiwa and Kiyomiya here, starting off, throwing big elbows, getting the crowd into it right away. Lots of big strikes from both guys. Ishii took a nasty brainbuster on the apron from Kyle Fletcher. There's a great spot where Kyle sitting on the top turnbuckle, and Ishii does a springboard like Hurricane Rana to Kyle Fletcher, which was nuts. And it was kind of great back and forth fighting spirit spots, big suplex. It's your Ishii match, and you got a great guy like Kyle Fletcher in there who can bump and sell and do some cool stuff as well. There was a nasty lawn dart that Fletcher did to Ishii, threw him right into the bottom turnbuckle. It was so nasty. But then Fletcher ends up getting the win after a big brain buster. So yeah, I thought this was a really great match. Probably Ishii's best singles match in the whole AEW run, and really good stuff.
Nice. So do you have anything for us this week that you'd like to review?
No, I did not pick anything.
All right. Well, you know what? I've got two that I'll just throw out there.
Okay.
we can definitely watch the Kenta Mystico MLW Fightland Opera Cup final.
Yep.
That's a good one to check out. And then I think you probably already saw this, but I'm gonna get around to watching Hangman Adam Page versus Tomohiro Ishii from AEW.
Yep, I watched that one already. But yeah, I can give my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so two good matches to check out as we're getting closer and closer to the end of Keeping It Strong Style's voting period for the 2024 awards.
Yeah, we gotta start getting those categories and nominees updated so it's not a crazy stretch toward the end of the year. Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here this week. So next week we'll be back to preview Destruction in Kobe and get ready for that show coming up. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongStyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/social suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, and Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rachel Latta and James Floyd. All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Samoans. Imps WWE Adventure with The Implications, Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Tunnel Talk with Allie, Ann, and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly.